Hello, everyone. Welcome to Druggies Lives Matter, my Pot Smokers Bible program about the war on drugs and all the reasons why it's wrong. And today, I'm going to be discussing with you propaganda. Propaganda is the very means by which the war on drugs was created and continues to be propagated. Now, propaganda is the art of convincing the public anything you want them to believe. This allows politicians to pass laws to line their pockets or the pockets of their donors at the expense of the environment and the society at large. Case in point, the war on drugs. Now, prior to 1939, which is the advent of the prohibition of marijuana, which is where the war on drugs as we know it originated. Now, the very fact that there is a war on drugs is based purely on propaganda. Because prior to 1939, when the fearsome foursome got together and created the prohibition against marijuana, there was never an incident to justify those laws. In fact, there was never a bad rap for marijuana until 1939, because prior to that, it had a long, storied history as a medicine, like cocaine. Cocaine was a medicine that was made illegal because unscrupulous salesmen decided to lace homemade brews of God only knows what with cocaine and to sell it on the road. A lot of people died as a result. So instead of doing something to ensure that the salesman didn't sell dangerous concoctions to kill people, they decided to make cocaine illegal. I guess they figured it would be easier. And the next incident of prohibition was alcohol. Now, there was a group of ladies that had just recently won the right to vote and was stretching their voting privileges and decided that alcohol needed to be done away with. And so they used propaganda to convince the government to ban alcohol. And for that, we got the template for the war on drugs. Because pretty much everything that we know of as the war on drugs today was based on what happened in the 20s. We have the gang violence, we have the proliferation of the police brutality, we have the empowerment of the police, we have the corruption of the government system, and all the tax money that's being sucked out of our pockets for the war on drugs. A war on drugs that never was necessary to begin with. Now, marijuana was the third final template for the war on drugs. And marijuana was made into an illegal drug purely through propaganda. Now, the story of the prohibition of marijuana pisses me off. And it should piss you off too. Because Dow Chemical had in 1930s or in the 20s and 30s had created a new substance called plastic. But plastic was expensive to create. And everything that they wanted to use plastic for at that time was already being used in the hemp field. So the hemp farmer was blocking the sale of plastic because it was cheaper to make, cheaper to grow than Dow could make plastic. And so Dow needed to get rid of hemp. Well, hemp and marijuana look exactly alike. So Dow Chemical convinced the senator from Texas to to that it was necessary to make marijuana illegal. That way they could get rid of all the Mexicans that were coming across the border. They could just deport them for marijuana sale, for bringing marijuana across the border. Yeah, that sounded good to Texas. And so he found out that a lot of jazz musicians in Louisiana smoked the pot that they were getting from the Mexicans. So he went to the Louisiana senator and convinced him that if he made marijuana illegal, then they could imprison all the blacks who were using marijuana in the South. And so these three went to this man named Anslinger, who was a government official, who had been successful in the 20s with the prohibition of alcohol. And I'm pretty sure they probably lined his pockets pretty deep. He enlisted the help of the newspapers and Hollywood to create a propaganda campaign, which included tagging marijuana use as the cause of major crimes that were being reported, which they weren't. And by having Hollywood create a series of films like Reefer Madness, which showed the public the dangers of marijuana use. Now, I've seen Reefer Madness myself. It's fucking hilarious. It's so stupid. Pure propaganda. None of it true. Not a single thing true. Except for maybe that people had a good time when they got high. Which, all it really did was make people want to get high. Because it looked like they were having a good time. So, they created a market for the product that they made illegal at the same time. And in order to pass these laws, they convinced everybody that everybody who smoked pot were raving lunatics who were going to kill you in your sleep. Pure propaganda. There was never any incidence of marijuana being the cause of a crime. But by making marijuana illegal, they could ban hemp because it looked just like it. You can't tell the difference unless you smoke it. One will give you a headache, the other one will get you high. So they just made these laws. They scared the hell out of America with propaganda, and they passed laws prohibiting marijuana. And at the same time, they did something really stupid. They decided that they had to convince everybody that marijuana was not this medicinal plant that it was, because it had a 4,000-year history as a medicine. And scientists have now scientifically proven that it is a medicine. So the lie is twofold. They created the need for these laws that were not necessary in order to allow Dow Chemical to sell us this crap and all the pollution that goes with it. And every other drug that they've marketed as illegal has followed the same template. They pick a drug that has psychotropic effects make it illegal, advertise that it's illegal so that everybody knows that it exists, then then they get to play cops and druggies all the time, taking more money out of our pockets in the name of the war on drugs, in the name of taxes. Gotta fund the police. All those drug users, gotta go round them up and put them in prisons. The prisons are owned by corporations that make money off of them. Free slavery, slave labor. They paid me $48 a month. If that's not slavery, I don't know what is. All in the name of propaganda. Because you just accept the fact that they said that it's a bad thing and therefore it needs to be illegal. So you need to give them how much of your income goes to the war on drugs? Why don't you look that up? Because once you look that up like I did, you'll be pissed too. Because there was never a reason for the first prohibition of a drug. There's never been a reason since. Every drug is advertised as illegal to create sales through the propaganda. It's just like computer viruses. The companies that make the viruses make the cures for the viruses, release the virus, then sell you the cure. Because you can't fucking tell me that 2 seconds after the virus has been released, somebody's already figured it out and made a cure. Bullshit. Propaganda. And it's all lining the pockets of the governments in the war on drugs and whoever's making the computer companies that are making the viruses. Because if they didn't make the virus to infect the computers that they create, you wouldn't need security to keep you from getting more viruses. Propaganda. Lies and innuendos, making you believe whatever they want you to believe. And millions upon millions of people are sitting in prisons because somebody told you something and you fucking believed it without looking it up. Who's the dumb one? Oh, you say I'm dumb because I do drugs? No, I'm not. Because I looked it up. I don't take anybody's word for anything in this society. Because everybody lies. Even I'll lie for a friend. But I won't lie to you. And propaganda is nothing but lies. When the government tells you that your children are evil because they do drugs, they're lying. It's the same child you knew the day before they got high. But because the government tells you that drugs are bad and people who do drugs are bad, and your kid does a drug, then all of a sudden your kid is bad. Well, that makes you a bad parent, doesn't it? We need to stop listening to propaganda. We need to start listening to the truth. That's what this program is about. Truth about the war on drugs. And why God only knows we should legalize. So may the gray, who are God, watch over you, guide you, protect you, and keep you from all harm. May they teach you right from wrong. May you be worthy of them. May your thoughts, words, and deeds reflect truth, good, and light, the unicorn way. Find your joy and pursue it, and make that your guild choice when you get to Camp Zion. If you're wondering what that is, find me or go to Pot Smoker's Bible and read my book or listen to my book. My name is Zion, If you use drugs, stay happy and high. You have every right and reason to. Believe me, I know. I wrote 2 books about it. Later.